so let's talk about cutting and how to get good cuts out of your fabric. Something to consider is that a lot of the times your pattern will have a diagram of how to cut out the pieces from your fabric if you have a limited amount of fabric. So that is definitely something to consider, and it can often be the best way to maximize the fabric that you're getting out of your cuts. Now, first thing I'm going to do, first thing I should explain is that I like to conserve as much time and effort as I can. So I have 4 different prints here that are all going to be cut the same way. And I like to stack what I can in order, if I have different prints that are going to be cut the same, I like to stack them up. Now, I don't recommend stacking much more than 4 because that can lead to not getting a nice cut on your fabric. So I've got these stacked 4. I'm going to move my ruler over just a little bit from the edge. I want to give myself a nice clean edge to start on. And now I'm ready to go. Now, it is best if you can avoid moving your fabric because that can shift layers. So if you have a little bit smaller cutting mat, you can actually take the entire mat and just turn it around to have a better angle to cut at. And if you make sure you are still in frame, and you could also just walk to the other side of your table if that's an option for you. Now, I need to first start by cutting out my larger piece, because if I cut lengthwise for my longer piece, I won't have the width that I need for my wider piece, even though it's shorter. So I'm going to also even up this side right here. And then I'm going to cut that piece, which happens to be a 6.5 inch square. This is a 9.5 inch ruler, so I'm just going to turn it to what I need, which 6.5. I'm actually going to cut this straight through because I don't need the full width of my fabric. This will give me a nicer cut than trying to go choppy like this. So I'm at 6.5, and I'm just going to make that cut, and then I can cut this down to the 6.5 that I need. Now, what I like to do when I'm cutting these out is the fabric for my piece I like to have underneath my ruler. This just helps ensure that if there's any shifting and my rotary blade goes off to the side, the fabric underneath my ruler is safe as long as I'm applying the appropriate amount of pressure and my ruler doesn't shift. When I place my ruler down on my fabric, I like to make sure that my fabric extends to the side of my cut line. So it's still on that line, but I am actually taking it just to the other side of that line. You could see I could cut it on the inside of that line, or I could cut right exactly on that line. But I am always cautious to make sure that I cut with my fabric extending just past that line. And then I cut it to what I need. This is such a minute amount that it's sort of like the cutting version of scant 1/4 inch seams. So now I need to make a 4.5 inch cut, and I'm going to do that the same way, where I just make sure that I am lining up with my fabric extending past that cut line. or to the other side of that cut line, I should say. It's not really past it, it's just to the other side. And now I have the size that I need. Widthwise, I just need to cut it down the rest of the way. Or I suppose maybe that's height-wise, and then this will be widthwise. So now I need to cut this to 8.5. And I'm just going to lay my ruler down and get this over to 8.5 over here. Make sure you are in view. And trim this off. All right, so now these are just bonus pieces that I have for some other project. I've got the 2 cuts that I needed, and I am ready to pull out the rest of my fabrics that need to be cut and move on to those. I hope this was helpful for explaining how to get nice even cuts on your fabric. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments, and if you would like me to explain anything more in detail, just let me know. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.